Hi, this is John Barnes, and you're listening to Kop On.
Welcome to Kop On podcast, you tangy kumquat. My name's Owen, and I'm freaking delighted. I'm still buzzing because, 95 minutes and 5 seconds were on the clock when Pickers, that criminal psychopath, numpty moron numbskull, was sent forward for a corner. And can I just say how freaking stupid it is when you're that desperate for a goal that you send Pickers up, but then you keep Mikalenko on the halfway line? What's the point in that? Send everybody into the box, you fucking numbskulls. Excuse the language, but this is Everton we're talking about, and the F-bomb is coming out because they didn't do anything with that corner, diddly squat, because it was beautifully defended by Queeve and the boys, and the relief at the final whistle was something joyous and beautiful. And I'm delighted to be joined by Kev, aka Spider _ LFC, and by Shane. And Shane, I don't know how much Super Mario you've played, but in the original Mario, you got to the end of the level, each level, and then you had this sort of bonus thing where you would be on top of a pipe and you'd have to jump onto the flag because you'd already passed the level. You knew the level was in the bag, but it's just about how many bonus points you would get at the end of the level. And I feel like Mario, having completed the level, this league is in the bag, and it's just how many points we get at the end now. But that's that feeling of relief, because I didn't want a single digit gap between us and Arsenal. I wanted to keep it as 12 juicy ones. It feels juicy. It still feels juicy. How you doing, Shane?
I'm doing great, Owen. Hi, Kev. Thank you for having me on again. Yeah, it's very funny that you had your doubts that I might not have played Mario. That's a compliment. I feel you're making me feel young, so thank you. But yeah, I am over the moon. I think I'd probably say that too much on this podcast, but my foot was bouncing the whole time, my knee, like as I was like chattering, watching every kick of the ball. It was a Merseyside derby for sure. There was no doubt about that. I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about the challenge on Maka and everything else, but overall, after the course of the events that unfolded before us, a 1-0 victory just feels oh so sweet.
Oh, so sweet. And those jangling nerves, jangling through your legs, mate. I totally get it. Kev, how were you during the game and after the game in terms of nerves?
I was a little complacent going into the game. I never normally am when it comes to Merseyside derbies, because I mean anything can happen in them, really, can it? But still, I'm normally more confident going into it. But then I'm considering the weeks that we had with Newcastle and PSG, and and then the gap and the break, and then when the international football finished, we had another 10-day break, and I'm kind of thinking the lads should be well enough rested by now. They've got a league to fight for. I mean, it's the only focus from here on in. So I expected us to do well. I expected us to completely control the game. I mean, little did I kind of guess that in the second half, the majority of the half will be 90 to 10% possession, for the most part, which is nuts stats. But in saying that, we should have polished them up. It just kind of goes to show that we've got through this season very well with the help of Gakpo, Diaz earlier on the season, Jota when he was on form before the break, Nunes in between every 10, 12 games, and Salah obviously, kind of carrying the rest of them throughout the season. It just goes to kind of show, he needs more help if he is to stay around next season up front, and I can see mighty changes happening. But besides that, very happy with the result.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, we're going to talk about lots of things in this game, but then of course we're going to talk about Fulham as we go forward. But we are going to do things chronologically today, starting with Liverpool versus Everton. The atmosphere was really good at the beginning of the game. Of course, the big story was that Curtis was at right back. And he was brilliant. Let's start by talking about him. Shane, what a performance by Curtis Jones. Have you been on Reddit and seen the video that I posted in our group chat of just Curtis versus Everton? He was absolutely supreme.
He absolutely was. And after those 90 minutes that he put in, I'm saying, bon voyage to Trent Alexander-Arnold. If he wants to go bugger off Real Madrid, by all means, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Whenever we're going to be singing the Scouser in our team, we'll be talking about Curtis Jones. But Curtis Jones has been a very loyal player on the bench, and I've been that performance, you just put him in anywhere, and it just shows more of the tactical acumen that Slot shows to make all these little adjustments, which compared to someone like Arteta or Guardiola, who keeps insisting we're not going to change the way we play, versus how Slot seems to adapt to anything, even a Klopp system and anywhere else, and in reaction. Barring a few results, first time we've lost two games back to back all season. We've been going since August, and we're in April, March, April. So, yeah, I mean, you want to stay in the Champions League, you want to stay in the Cup, but this is his first season. He can't win the quadruple or even treble, or whatever else. But the Premier League is just fine by me. I don't know about you all.
It's more than fine. It's absolutely splendiferous. It's joyful, joyous,
joy. For his fan Dabby Dozy. There you go.
That is exactly the word. Well done.
Going back to Reddit, and Curtis, real quick, did you see the video of the little Everton kid with the selfie video with him?
Yeah,
Kev, you saw it?
Yeah, I seen it. Yeah.
Explain it to the listeners.
Cop bites a gobshite. Yeah, Cop bites a gobshite. So he asked Curtis for a picture at the end. He had a bit of a video going. So when he had him, he put the arm around him, and then he turns around and he goes, Cop bites a gobshite. And then he starts singing the Cop bites a gobshite song. And Curtis just starts laughing and heading back to his car. And the kid is just still singing at him the whole way over. It was brilliant. It was very good.
Fair play. That's excellent stuff. Yeah, brilliant. Well done to that kid. There are some good Evertonians out there. Believe me. Or you can believe it for yourself with that little anecdote. Very funny. Well done, young chap. But it's a very good point, Shane, about Arne Slot and the way that he's able to switch it up. He did mention in passing in one of the press conferences after Trent got injured that Curtis can play at right back, and it was sort of like glossed over. If it was a couple of weeks ago, just after Trent's injury, and I was thinking that I would like to see it, and there we were, in the right game for it, and it's just very clever. And that's one of the things I've loved about Arne Slot, Kev, so far. As Shane was saying about his adaptability, but just the way that he's able to anticipate how a game's going to go. There's that I love. And there's also the fact that many, many, many times this season, as was the case against Everton, we've had some problems in the first half, and we've come out a lot better in the second half with little tweaks and little changes. And as Shane said, it's his first season and we're going to win the league. I mean, tell me something you love about Arne Slot.
Well, it's his adaptability in comparison to Klopp previously. Like everybody loved Jurgen Klopp, really did, but he never changed formation. He never adapted within a game like an Ancelotti would, or these type of managers would. But the good thing I go right back to pre-season with Arne Slot and the 2 games in a row against Arsenal and Manchester United when we battered them both in pre-season. The main thing I saw in that was his ability to read. So Arne Slot plays the here you go, show me what you got game. So he hands them possession for a period of time, maybe 10 minutes in a game, and without much of a press, he lets them drop back. Then because they have a setup. So a team, especially against Liverpool, a team will come in, and this is where you see us kind of struggling less this season against teams that have the low block, because he allows them to have more possession. If you want to stop a team from low blocking you and you're pummeling them, you give them a bit of possession. You let them come out of their comfort zone, which is defending constantly, and you let them see what they have in attack. And when they get a bit of confidence, they think they can come out a bit more against you. And when that happens, Slot has this tactic of then telling the lads to switch on straight away. And when that happens, especially earlier on in the season, and especially in the second half of games, we punish them. So we did that against Manchester United pre-season. We did it earlier in the season as well. When you think that United have that first 10-minute spell all the time, Slot's been a master of that throughout the season. It's been one of the most refreshing things that I've seen coming from him, was his ability to just. He's not really playing our team or tactics. He's playing the other team's tactics against them, and he's telling them, No, we'll give you a bit of possession. We'll stand back. That lower block, that's going to disappear once you have possession. Once you have possession, you're going to try and come at us. You're not going to keep kicking it up the pitch because your own fans will boo you. So he gives them possession, sees how they utilize it, and then he counterattacks them all non-stop. And before they get comfortable to get back into their mindset of defense, it's too late by that stage. And that's pretty much what's been happening most of the season. Though we have been a bit leggy later on in the season, but that's down to us. We're still trying to implement that as we go along. It happened with Everton, even in the second half yesterday, where they gave them a slight bit of possession where you think they're going to have a chance and stepping back a small bit, not too much of a high line. And then we started for that 10-15 minute period, we had 90% to 10 possession after we gave them that possession piece, and they didn't know what to do with it. We could have gone 2 or 3 goals up by that stage.
Indeed. And there was a flag at the beginning of the match with, the great managers, that massive, beautiful flag. Shankly, Paisley, Fagan, Dalglish, Benitez and Klopp, all with their faces on there. And I imagine they're going to need a bigger flag by the time Arne Slot has finished with Liverpool FC. The lineup we spoke about was fairly predictable, apart from Curtis Jones. Everton, had the big lad Beto up front. And the atmosphere was really good at the beginning of the game. You could hear it was coming across on the TV. And we'll go through the highlights now. Basically, they're going to be on the screen for our guests, and we'll just try and explain everything as they happen. Straight from the kickoff, actually, Virgil wins an absolutely massive header. And you can say what you want about the first half performance, because it wasn't great in terms of we gave them more big chances than we had. It was 2-1. But that header and the fact that we won 25 duels compared to 22 in the first half alone showed that we were bang up for the fight. Virgil won this towering header right from the kickoff. Diogo Jota got the ball. He sprayed it wide. Mo Salah was running down the right wing, and he should have actually played an early ball to Diaz, who was in tons of space on the back of Tarkowski, but you could forgive him not being eagle-eyed 20 seconds into a match. But then the first chance we had was Konate from a corner, and Alexis McAllister corner after just 2 minutes, about 1 minute 48 seconds to be fair. Kev, what did you make of all this?
It's right here what you're looking at now, and the viewers can't see this, but this is the first instance of Tarkowski at play in this game. And not many people have pointed this out. They haven't seen it. But I as I was doing a live watch along yesterday, Tarkowski actually pressures, like full-on pressure, kneeling down on the back of Konate's calf where he knew his injury tends to be. So when you see him trying to get up from the corner here, Tarkowski actually kneels back down on Konate, which angers Konate in a way. That alone should have been a yellow card from the get-go, before even the red card. So if VAR actually decided to go back and look at it, but they didn't, because they left him away with everything pretty much yesterday.
I mean, it was Paul Tierney. He may as well not be there. Like, he really may as well not be there, because he's not going to overturn anything despite anything. But anyway, one thing I do not want. I'm going to ban talk of referees as much as we can. I'd rather just focus on the footy, and we're going to focus on Fulham. Tierney should be not just sacked, but lobotomized, in my opinion. It's various rules need to be put in place just to make sure this kind of shit never happens again. Pickers should have been sent off. Of course, he should have. Tarkowski, I mean, he's not just sent off, it's like beyond a 3-game ban. He should be banned for about 6 months for a tackle like that. We need that out of football. But anyway, Diogo Jota got the ball. Let's just talk about the football. After 10 minutes and 7 seconds, Diogo Jota has taken the ball and spun away. There are 3 Everton defenders around him. He's approaching the D on the edge of the box. He takes a touch. He gets into the box. Everton don't really close him down, and he's able to get a shot away, which is blocked. And something that happened throughout the match is that McAllister snapped in as soon as he could to a tackle, and he won the ball very cleanly. And that was the moment where Tarkowski should have been red carded. As I said, I don't want to talk about it because it's just too obvious. I don't blame the referee because it happened really quickly. And if it happens really quickly and I don't know, for some reason, if he didn't get the right view of it from his angle, you can sort of understand it from where he was. But I've only heard one pundit say that it was not a red card, and that's Lee Dixon. And there's something I noticed about Lee Dixon is that he speaks incredibly slowly. Have you noticed this? He was like, well, I just think that maybe the yellow card was just about the right decision. And I don't know if the lights have ever been on in his head, but whatever power cut that survives to this day is being combated by some dim candles. And it appears that these dim candles are burning down to the end of the wick. So Lee Dixon, whoever's in charge of employing him, I don't know, have a word with yourself. I don't know, speed him up. Give him some amphetamine before the game. Just something to speed him up a little bit. Anyway, that dirty cheat thug Tarkovsky, after 19 minutes 13 seconds, had the ball in a defensive area, lumped one over the top, as is Everton's wont. And Beto was offside. Virgil did his best to put him off. It was offside and he hit the ball in. Paul Deeney, interestingly, spent 1 minute and 13 seconds. I counted before. 1 minute and 13 seconds checking the offside for this goal. He spent 10 seconds or less checking the red card. But anyway, we're not talking about referees. We're just talking about the footy. Shane, were you worried at this point that was an actual goal? Because it just seemed, I was quite relaxed about it. I mean, Paul Tierney obviously tried his level best to, make something offside that clearly wasn't. But were you worried at this stage, 20 minutes in? I mean, that would have been a kick in the ghoulies, wouldn't it?
I think it was only indicative of what Beta was going to show. I was confident that it was offside, but then as soon as the VAR came up, I started to get a little wary. I mean, simply based on the fact, I hate to go back, but we just saw the challenge earlier in the match. And so the fact that Paul Tierney didn't even ask the referee to go look at the monitor, is just, after that, I was like, I don't know what I can trust. And so when they started lining it up, I'm like, here they go. They're just going to try to find a way to, make this count, blah, 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 blah. And thankfully they weren't able to do so. But yeah, I don't think I was too worried. I mean, defensively, through the course of the first half, I do become more concerned, especially when Virgil van Dijk does his little pirouette and misses the ball. But aside, Beto is a threat, and he is a very good striker, and he seems to be able to do this to defenses.
I think he's underrated. I mean, I don't know. I think he's got a lot of talent, actually, in terms of making a pest of himself, and it's not easy against Virgil and Ibu, of course. But there you go. 26 minutes 31 seconds. Andy Robertson plays a lovely ball behind Everton's fullbacks. It gets to Diogo Jota, who tries to pull it across, and it's cleared away by that filthy, cheap Tarkovsky on the edge of his own 6-yard box. But it was an absolutely terrible clearance by the jugged prig. And it came out to Diogo Jota, who took a couple of touches and then smashed it high and wide, sort of up on the diagonal, aiming for the top corner. And you may as well aim for the top corner, but that one was high and wide. And then just 1 minute later, Luis Diaz, Lucho, was jiggling around, wriggling and jiggling away from Jake O'Brien, who just didn't know what day it was. All game, it was an amazing performance from Lucho, I thought, really. And Lucho played this beautiful dinked cross to the back post, and Mo Salah, his header was straight at that thug Pickers. So, that short-armed thug Pickers. Kev, Lucho. Give me two possibilities of things to talk about. You can talk about Lucho's performance, Fop Mob and who scored, and lots of people had Lucho as the man of the match because he made 6 chances for his teammates compared to one who was the next on the list in terms of key chances created. He was a live wire all game. You could either talk about that, or you can talk about Mo Salah and his poor header, because that poor header was probably his best chance of the game after 30 minutes. And Mo Salah has not played well for about 5 or 6 matches now in a row. And I don't know, you could talk about, Mo Salah, poor form, or Lucho, great form.
Yeah, well, I suppose there's no need to talk about Salah now because you kind of hit it on the nail on the head. He's just a bit off form for the last 5 or 6 games, and Salah tends to do that around the same time every year anyway. So it's kind of from April onwards, Salah starts kind of turning up a bit for the rest of the season. It doesn't do his Ballon d'Or shouts any good. But anyway, to Lucho. Lucho he's an enigma for me, He's well capable of holding onto the ball and playing it, but he is kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to the edge of the box. But he had a great performance against Everton. He was one of our better players. Him, Andy Robertson, he played well. Inside was Curtis Jones played well. Jota had an okay game. It didn't kind of set the world alight, but he had an okay game. Verge had a great second half. A bit of a sleepy first half, but outside that, nobody really kind of stood out. Sebastian didn't set the world alight. I thought he would get going a bit, but he didn't really set the world alight. But look, we completely dominated that game. I'd like to see a lot more from Lucho because I like to see him going to the byline a lot more. He doesn't tend to do that enough for me. And if you're going to have, this is why Jota and Salah are kind of reluctant to make those runs to the edge of the 6-yard box, and they kind of come up, it really bunches up that area there by the D at the edge of the box, because when Lucho has the ball, they all tend to drop back towards the D because they're looking for that pass rather than actually make a run towards the 6-yard box and force Lucho to go to the byline. If they did that more, Lucho would probably get the message and just start, okay, I'll take it onto my left-hand side, even if I'm using my right foot, and try and get it across. But look, he had a great game against Everton. He did. But without creating too much, bar the Salah chance and, the assist for Jota, outside that, I don't know what's going to happen with Lucho at the end of the season. I don't know whether he's going to be a slot-type player that stays around or not. He did a couple of things great defensively yesterday, tracking back, winning the ball, covering the defence on that side. So I have to give him props. It's been one of Lucho's better games. He has one of these games every maybe 7 to 10 games. He can kind of pop up with a game like this. But outside that, it's mostly fairly casual from Lucho when he's in the team. I'd just like to see him do a lot more creative. If he assisted a lot more, then from that left hand side, you probably wouldn't even see Gakpo kind of getting into the team really. Because he's so good on the ball, Lucho, but just that final thing that he does, that final pass or that final thought process is just not quite there. I'd like to see him take a couple of shots more from the edge of the box as well, instead of those extra 2 or 3 touches. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, absolutely. Would like to see him shooting more, and also assisting more. He's only had 5 assists in 29 Premier League games and no assists in 9 Champions League games. So you're absolutely spot on there, Kev, with what you're saying about him. But that kind of Lucho that we saw in the derby, that's the one we want really. Let's move on. So 32 minutes 5 seconds on the clock. Everton are humping it clear. Ibu jumps, leaps like the proverbial salmon, but it flicks off the side of his head, the sort of back side, if you wouldn't mind the vulgarity, of his head, and it goes sort of towards Virgil, but Virgil's running the other way, and then this crazy bounce with the spin on the ball that bounces perfectly to Abdoulaye Doucouré. I met Abdoulaye Doucouré once. Lovely guy, actually. He didn't haunt me for being a Liverpool fan, but I spent a couple of hours in his company, and I think he will be very disappointed with his pass that he played there, because Beta was through on goal and his pass was sort of behind him and bouncing. It was a horrible pass. But speaking of horrible, then Virgil steps in, and the whole world and the whole world's granny thought that Virgil was just going to waltz in there and, serenade the ball away, which is what he normally does. But no, he swiped at it like he was like a wily coyote, desperately trying to feel for the ground when he's already run off the edge of the cliff just before he drops into the canyon. Virgil, he was absolutely diabolical defending for that moment there. Virgil, I'll go to you first, Kev. I want to ask you as well, Shane, about what you thought about Virgil's performance. But Kev, you wanted to come in there anyway.
No, I just wanted to say quickly that the two worst situations that our centre backs had were both in the exact same phase of play for Everton. So they were pretty good after that, and especially in the second half. But the only time that they were kind of like lackluster, we were in the same two phases of Everton attack, and with the Ibu header knocking it down and the ball spin, and he didn't get to it cleanly, and then obviously the ball from Decore over the top to Beto and the bad swipe from Verge. They both had their bad calamities in the same moment, and from then on it was just they were a lot more solid. So no, that's all I wanted to say about that. It's just that we were lucky that it kind of all happened in the one time, and then Beto went on and thankfully missed.
Yes, no, it's a very good point, because I saw people giving Virgil like 4 out of 10 and Ibu 4.5 out of 10. It's like, no, man, for that move, yes, give them 2 out of 10, give them 1 for that particular move, but they were solid AF apart from this, especially in the second half against those lunks that Everton have. Absolutely right, Kev. Shane, what did you make of Virgin Ibu?
Yeah, I think Kev did a really great job of putting it into perspective. You as well, Owen. It seems calamitous, and it is in the moment. But I mean, they're professional players, and we haven't seen them slice a ball in this way in this situation all season. So you have to give them some credit. I mean, even the best golfer in the world will hit a ball into the pond. So you just have to take it for what it is. And honestly, after Beto hit the post, I started laughing because it just shows the signs that it's going to be one of those days where you're just not going to be able to get it over the line. No matter what happens, Virgil van Dijk could do this. It could go off Ibu here, and you could get it past Quavine Kelleher, but it's just still not going to go in for you.
Absolutely right. And there are several people in the Kop who leap up. You can see them celebrating, punching in the air as if that was a goal. And you could see the crestfallen Everton fans as well, who were, yes, absolutely devastated when that ricocheted off the post. It's actually, he did really well, Beto, because it's a very good shot. He's just incredibly unlucky, really. But you're absolutely right, Shane. We can point and laugh. David Moyes, 24 games or something. No, 21 games. I lose count. 21 games, is it, without winning at Anfield in his entire career. He's been at Anfield with 4 different clubs, and he's got 7 draws and I think 15 losses now. I think it's 22 games without a win. That old banner, David Moyes is a football genius, should just be like, someone should just leave it at Anfield. I don't know, whenever he's there anyway, bring it out. 42 minutes and 8 seconds. We've got the ball on the edge of the sort of the edge of the Everton area, a little bit further out. It's absolutely delicious cross that Everton causes all kinds of havoc. And then Andy Robertson has a wild swing. Speaking of hitting the ball into the pond, he hit that into the Mersey. 44 minutes and 18 seconds. Mo Salah plays it in to the box. Low, Curtis Jones lays it off to Gravenberch from the edge. Sorry, from outside the box. Everton got a very, very lucky deflection that sort of flicked up into the tiny arms of Pickers. The second half started, and we came out so brilliantly. Kev, I know I touched on it before, the difference in the first half and the second half, but the second half, you mentioned about the possession stats. That's down to absolutely fantastic decision making and pressing on our part to, as soon as we lose the ball, get it back immediately, suffocate them. And we were just brilliant. 50 minutes and 3 seconds. Curtis Jones has the ball. He lays it off towards Diogo Jota, who's come a little bit deep, and Jota plays it through to Soboslai, who plays it back to Jota, and Pickers sticks a leg out, but that one was offside. I would have taken Jota off at halftime, Kev, because I thought he had the lowest pass completion. But now watching the highlights back, I'm like, well,
he didn't do too badly.
Yeah, he didn't do too badly at all. And of course, this is why I'm not a manager, and I would make terrible decision after terrible decision. I would have taken him off at halftime. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, a lot of people, I probably would agree, just to kind of get somebody. It was just kind of because he wasn't getting the ball enough for me in these kind of positions, But when he did, he tried to do the best with him. But thankfully we didn't take him off. In the end, because his bit of magic is what pretty much sealed it for us. And it's the lead up to the goal and all of that. I heard Gary Neville on his podcast. Sorry, I keep saying yesterday for the game, but it's 2 days ago. And I heard Gary Neville on his podcast kind of turn around and say that, and it was very kind of silly out of him, really. He contradicted himself in one sentence with his own answer, and it was funny enough. He said that, that Diaz should have been offside for the goal, and because Tarkowski came across and tackled the ball in that moment, and then Diaz got a hold of the ball is when he should have been offside. I'm thinking to myself, hang on a minute, Gary, you just kind of contradicted yourself there, because the fact, if Tarkowski didn't make a move across to the ball to get the goal, Diaz would have probably had to leave in it or would have been offside. But the fact that he did means that he changed what phase of play it was, because he became active on the ball, and then Diaz's offside is no longer active. So this is what happens, with offsides. And because of that, it's he's made a right kind of mug of himself on his own podcast. He's literally contradicted himself in the same sentence. He answered his own contradiction. So it's funny to watch. Yeah, it's funny to listen to.
I'm full of admiration for your bravery to watch the Gary Neville podcast. I can't do it to my own ears. My whole face.
I don't normally just kind of
in jellied disapproval. It's sort of like it's the same reaction. I've never been stung by a Portuguese man of war, but that's how I imagine it would feel.
See, for me, it's like kind of knowing the enemy. So
yes.
it's so he is regarded as one of the biggest pundits around. He's one of the highest, probably the highest paid pundit around.
I do not know. Yeah.
And if somebody like me, who just talks waffle about football on a YouTube podcast, can catch him out in 3 seconds with one sentence, surely other people are noticing the same. And sometimes, I kind of had a bit of respect for Gary Neville a few years back, because he was very unbiased in some of his talking. It's just lately, as he's gone on, he's gone to more the Rio Ferdinand side of punditry, where he can't hide the biasness, or he's become bitter because a lot of people are catching him out now with some. If he's like the fella that if he's not right, he will just say waffle until people forget what they were talking about in the first place. So, and that's the kind of road he's kind of gone down. He needs to get away from that if he's going to be respected again fully as a pundit.
It's not recent for me though, Kev. Yeah. He's been talking absolute
for 4 seasons.
For donkey's years. Yeah, I mean, when he started, I'll give him his dues. He seemed to, do his research really well, and tell you stuff about defending that perhaps you hadn't thought about. And it was like, oh yeah, fair enough. I always thought you were a complete jerk. That lasted about 6 months, and then then there were many times where I was just watching and going, hang on, what is behind what you believe? What is behind it? Because he's very good at talking. I imagine, I don't know, I have a friend who took magic mushrooms once and had a long conversation with a plant pot for about 5 hours. And I imagine Gary Neville would probably do that without the mushrooms, just talk to a plant pot for a little while.
I think somebody said recently that his own wife must hate him. She
kicks him out. She's like, oh, you got another job today. Okay, have a good time, Gary. Oh,
If
that's
you
another.
say at this present moment in time one more time,
Yes, exactly. Yes.
that's his favorite phrase. I
Yes.
all the time I've adopted that whenever I'm in conversation. I'm like, at this present moment in time, and I'm always giggling to myself because I'm making fun of Gary Neville.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of slow talkers like Lee Dixon, I mean, Gary Neville, Manchester United Football Club. It's not good enough. Man, I just want to shake him. And I understand, like, you know, the question marks started when he was, you know, at Valencia as a manager. And he did so abominably badly there. And then when he came back and he got into the punditry, and it's like, well, I'm trying to listen to what you're saying as opposed to how you're saying it, because he says it very authoritatively. Everything he says authoritatively. But you actually listen to what he's saying, and it's either complete hot air, like literally meaningless, or it's completely wrong. And there's no middle ground. He
It's
might
kind of
get
gone
something right.
Michael Owen like, isn't he, when you think of it? Michael Owen just states the obvious in 4 different sentences in different ways, like the absolute obvious, and he's just kind of just randomly saying waffle. And he's always looking for, because he's got a bit of a gift of the gab. He's got this kind of tendency to kind of take you down different paths so that you forget what you were talking about in the first place. But then, you know, people like me just wait for the waffle to finish, and then I just say, oh yeah, back to that point there, Gar. You know, that's, you know, because, you know, you're kind of waffling on a bit. But it's just when he said it about the Tarkowski thing about, Tarkowski's playing him offside beautifully well there. And, you know, and I don't know why he's not punished for the offside. And, you know, and then Tarkowski steps over and clears the ball and makes a hames of it. And I'm like, well, that's your answer right there, Gary. He just brought himself into the phase of play, ended the offside phase of play, and started a new phase of play right there in one sentence. So yeah, it's nuts. He's not understanding his own thought process.
What a dunderhead.
It does make me worried. If you're able to spot that with Michael Owen, I mean, saying the obvious in 4 sentences is what I do on this podcast. So I'm starting to get worried that you might call me out on my lies, on my facade.
No, it's just pun after pun. You can't win games without scoring goals. That kind of obvious. Of course, you can't win games without scoring goals, Mike. You know, it's just that kind of obvious. You know,
if they score 2 more goals, they will be the favourites to win this match. That kind of stuff. Yeah, he says that all the time. He's a deeply strange man. I have a story about Michael Owen that I promised never to say on the air, so I'm not going to say it. But just take my word for it. He's a really strange man. If you want to perhaps guess what that story might be and what way Michael Owen is strange, then please email me koponpodcast@gmail.com with your story ideas, and I will tell you how close to the depths of weirdness you've got with your imaginations. Back to the footy, 52 minutes and 3 seconds gone. Liverpool, as they did at the beginning of the second half beautifully, playing around the shape, as Jurgen used to say, playing around Everton's shape absolutely marvellously. It leads up to Gravenberch taking another shot from outside the area, which Pickers got away with thanks to some brilliant defending by Branthwaite, full stretch diving header to take it away from Mo Salah's foot, and Liverpool won a corner. But then it was the goal, basically. We won it in midfield from Idrissa Gueye, and ran forward. It was Gravenberch trying to, you know, do a bit of trickery. Everton have never seen trickery in their lives, so they start panicking. It comes to the edge of the box, and Mo Salah tries to get one in, and then Branthwaite just whacks it clear. Oh, that was just before the goal. Sorry, Mikalenko whacks it clear. That was just before the goal. But then from there, sorry, just before we talk about the goal, yeah, Kev?
No, it was just, you were just on about a bit of trickery there, but I seen a bit of trickery, and it was when Carlo Ancelotti, when Everton thought Carlo Ancelotti was going to stay around for quite a bit. You know, he lasted about 6 months, and was it James Rodriguez? I think that was 2 of the biggest trickeries you've ever seen in one season happen to Everton, where they thought they were going to win the league for 3 weeks on top of the league, and, you know, then everything went away, and they've nearly been relegated every season since. So, you know, that's the only type of trickery they've seen, but it's always against themselves. 1995, lads.
Shane, as a native of the United States, do you know what Coronation Street is, Shane? Have you ever heard of a
Uh,
TV show called Coronation Street?
oh, the TV show. It sounds familiar, but no, unless it's Black Books or Faulty Towers, I might be out of the loop.
Oh, good choice, man. For British TV. No, but Coronation
Flying
Street is a
Circus.
staple of British television. It's a soap opera that became incredibly popular for like decades. Soap opera based in Manchester. And it's really bad. Like it's a really bad show where like the whole community, everybody goes to the pub and then someone gets murdered. And it's typical soap opera, telenovela kind of stuff. And somebody very beautifully and succinctly put the idea of Carlo Ancelotti going to Everton. They said it was like Robert De Niro going on Coronation Street.
That is brilliant.
That's pretty good. I like that.
That's a
one.
good analogy. Yeah.
Anyway, so the goal, yeah. Everton looking lost, looking confused, looking static. Gravenberch plays it to an offside Lucho, who then, yeah, he should be offside. I think he should be offside, but in the rules, he's not. And there is a reason for that. And Tarkovsky should be more intelligent, should play with more intelligence to let that ball go because he's miles offside. But anyway, it came to Diogo Jota, and this is a hell of a goal, isn't it? It's a hell of a goal. It's a hell of a finish. It's just, how does somebody phrase it? Like the more intense the moment is, the cooler Diogo becomes. Like he slows time down, where for everybody else it would speed up. And Shane, that's what he's done so often for us. This was, however, his first goal in 10 matches, I believe. And I just wonder how your patience is with Diogo Jota. How do you feel about him overall? Obviously, he's he could
I'm a huge Diogo Jota fan. I do think he should be starting over Darwin Nunez. It's just his injury record, the fact that he's so prone. I think I've seen a meme online where it was like 2 games and then Jota is like waving goodbye. And so, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately true, but with that, I mean, the slalom run that he just does on the back of Diaz's like little flick behind. I think in the group chat I said it was Firmino-esque. I mean, the whole moment was just those two linking up together. I don't know if I had seen them link up together in that way all season, and so it made me excited because it can't be all just Salah, Szoboszlai the whole time, or Salah and Darwin Nunez. So it's nice to see some more on the left-hand side in terms of a connecting tissue. But yeah, overall, I want him to stay like this. It's nice that he's coming back in and he can just get a goal. And I want to see more of this, and I want it to continue.
But in terms of the injury record, let's just get it straight. Okay, just Premier League. Okay, he joined us at the beginning of the 2021 season, and I think that was COVID, just after COVID lockdown kind of stuff, I think. But he played, he had 12 starts in the 2021 season, 12 starts. He had 27 starts just in the Premier League in 21-22. 27 starts, 21-22. In the next season, 22-23, he had 12 starts. Last season, he had 14 starts. This season, he's had 11. So there's a maximum of 19. It's not enough, Kev.
Nope, it is not enough. And I've seen it somewhere that he was on par with Thiago for like a maximum of like playing 28 games a season, which is nuts. And you're talking about like out of all competitions, not just like the league. Because you would say, okay, he played 28 league games a season, he's just missed 10 because of a bit of injury, no problem. A lot of players do that, but it's not. It's 28 out of a possible, we could play every game a season. You're talking 63 games. So that's not even being available for, like, talking maybe around a third of a season if you go by the game time. I mean, not even, he could play those games, 28, but I mean starting. They're saying he's starting 11. That's not even a sixth of where he should be playing in the amount of games that he's playing. So yeah, it's not. I said 2 years ago when Newcastle were interested, we should have cashed in and probably brought in a striker. I'm of the thought process that I believe that Darwin Nunez and Jota will leave in the summer. I think Slot is going to have a massive clear out. It would not surprise me if Salah signs, because I think he will re-sign. but it wouldn't surprise me if Jota, Diaz, and Nunez all leave in the summer, and we cash in on them and kind of bring in people that suits Slat style better, and somebody who can give us more of an, like, what does Chiesa have to do to get a game now? He can't even buy a vowel. You know, it's just it's unbelievable. He's in great form when he came on. He's been working hard behind the scenes. It's not suiting Slat style because Chiesa is an entity of himself. You put Chiesa in a position, he doesn't tend to hold it too well. He'll just move into the spaces, and sometimes you need that kind of chaos. Instead of shape. If you're really dominating the game, just bring a guy like him on to open stuff up and do something. He's not getting the opportunity. It's unfortunate, but it's worth a punt because we only paid 10 million for the guy, and he was worth 130 million 3 seasons ago. So you would do that. Paying him 140k a week at 10 million is pennies in comparison to the type of player that he can actually be, and how much money we could actually make off him if we do decide to sell him in the summer. So back to Italy. But in
I
saying
can only assume though that he's either not fit enough to last a long time. They just don't trust his body, or Arne just doesn't really like him for some reason. Like he wasn't an Arne slot signing. He was a panic buy. There are 182 games that Jota could have started, but he's only started 76 of those. I'm only counting Premier League since he joined us. 182 games and 76. Where do you stand on that, Shane? I mean, cash in because he's not reliable enough, or because when he's on form, he does seem patchy or whatever, but he's got, in the Premier League, from 76 starts, he's got 47 goals and 14 assists. So he's pretty damn good, but he's patchy. He's in and out. I don't know. What do you reckon, Shane?
Yeah, I think I kind of remember going into this with people saying that was what happened at Wolverhampton with Wolves, that he was streaky and that this was something that was a contingency, that this was like, something that could happen in his career, and it has continued to do so. It's a trend that's continued on. So yeah, I just start to think that, like, yes, he's still useful, obviously. Between him and Nunez, I'd rather keep him over Nunez at this point, but I don't know. I don't know, because whenever you lay out, I didn't know all of those absentees or, all those missed games in particular. That is a huge number. It always feels like less. I feel like I see him more than that. But yeah, to only have that many starts, if there's someone else available and we can cash in, more than likely, it's probably the smart business move at this point.
Yeah, agreed. And it feels hard and harsh and cold to say that just a couple of days after he gave us so much joy. But
if you told me tomorrow morning, could I choose between Cunha and Jota, I'm taking Cunha all day. It's that simple. So it's an easy buy. So if you're choosing other people in the front line over Jota, and he's been our best finisher, then straight away that it shouldn't really matter who's in that front line. I think you'd pick Cunha over any one of those that are there at the moment, easily.
Yeah, I mean, that's he's someone who would be at the top of my shopping list as well. It's a realistic signing as well. It's not like Cunha is the only person who can improve our front line. There are several out there, but Cunha Ekitike is doing very well in Germany. There are a few that we've been looking at in the Kop On group. Do let me know if you want to join us on WhatsApp. Send an email, koponpodcast@gmail.com. What I love about this, Shane, I'm going to go back to you. What I love about what happens next in the highlights is that if you look, it's 58 minutes on the clock, right? We're watching Jota slaloming through. We're watching Arne Slot spin around. And it's 58 minutes on the clock. The next highlight is on 81 minutes. Shane, 23 minutes where bugger all happened. And that's been the story of our season, isn't it? When we get a slender lead, we're so good at just shutting the game down. And the only chance that's going to happen is going to fall to a Liverpool player. Were you impressed with, as I was? I thought we defended absolutely magnificently in the whole second half.
Absolutely, yeah. We were able to finally get the door shut and lock the door, and it was very nice to see it. In the moment, though, I was a nervous wreck because, one goal lead is not enough to maintain all, it's dangerous. They get something. We saw what happened in the last Merseyside derby. So yeah, I was nervous, but then going back and looking at it, it's like, oh, everything was secure. We had it taken care of.
It was indeed, so much so that I'm not even going to watch the rest of the highlights with you because, basically Lucho Diaz chops inside. He gets his biggest moment of the night was an 81 minutes and 19 seconds, but it was not the best finish in the world. And then it was just all about lumping it as Everton were trying to do, and they were leaving a little bit more space here, there, and everywhere. That was the Pickers moment when Pickers should have been sent off. There was the corner at the end. We only gave away 3 corners in the second half and 2 in the first half, which shows you how well we were in control and how we didn't let them really exploit their big strengths, which are just set pieces because they're all a bunch of lunks, as I said before. But let's move on. I want to move on to Fulham. Fulham have won just 1 of their last 13 Premier League games against Liverpool. They've drawn 3, they've lost 9, and they beat us actually at Anfield in that horrendous run of 6 league games in a row that we lost in 2021. So Fulham was one of those horrendous things. Sorry to bring back those terrible memories. And Liverpool are unbeaten in the last 6 away games against Fulham. 1-4, drawn 2. Since a 1-0 loss in December 2011. That was the last time we lost at Fulham. Kev, can you remember who was the manager in December 2011?
That would have been Roy Hodgson.
Kenny Dalglish.
Was it Kenny? Oh, for
just
us?
Come back.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, okay. For us,
I thought
okay,
you were
sorry.
talking about,
I thought you were talking Fulham. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry, no. I think it was Kenny took over from Roy Hodgson, and then Roy Hodgson was at Fulham the season before. So yes.
Oh yeah, I could have told you that because we won just into February. Kenny just was he there 6 months? His first 2 months he won a trophy. So it's that just shows the King Kenny power coming back to the club. So yeah. Look, it was a great kind of time for Liverpool after probably our worst period of years in our history, I'd say, in total. So Kenny came back. We were building for the future. The owners took over, at that stage, and we were in dire straits before that. So yeah, it was a good time.
Part of the rebuild. I mean, what a rebuild! What a story! How lucky we've been to have followed this story from back then, from those dark days. And part of the rebuild, of course, was Luis Suarez. And this season, Liverpool have scored 38 goals in 15 away Premier League matches, which is an average of 2.53 goals per game away from home, which is our joint best in a top flight season, because we scored at the same rate in 13-14, Suarez's heyday, and there's the tenuous link I was going for. But we're averaging 2.53 goals per game. Kev, I'm going to go straight back to you. That's phenomenal. In an away game, 2.53 goals for every away game. Crazy.
For who?
For Liverpool. That's our average.
As an average in an away game this season?
Yeah. 38 goals in 15 away games.
That's a great stat. I didn't even dawn on that stat. I knew we played well, since we only lost 1 game in the league all season, but still, that's a great stat to have. It's phenomenal. I'm you think of it, and you're going to a manager in his first season with players he's never used before in a team that was kind of firing under Klopp last season. We seen this time last year. I was in the middle of Portugal, and we were. Before I left to go to Portugal, we were battling for the league, and we were very, very strong to battle for the league. And when I went to Portugal, not 1 game did we win. When I was over there, I was there for the United game, the Crystal Palace game, all of it, and by the time I came back from holidays, everything had kind of turned on its head. I was kind of like, don't go on holidays again, but too late. I'm going to the same place again in 2 weeks' time. But the only game that I'm only going to be over there for, I am, yeah. But the only game I'm going to be over there for is Leicester. That's it.
Oh, you've planned it well.
I've planned it in between that gap. So yeah, I leave the day after we play West Ham. I come back the day before we play Spurs. So yeah.
Well done, Kev. We're safe. We're still safe.
We don't beat
Shane,
Leicester. Oh my God.
I mean, now that I know you're going back to the same place, I'm gonna put a quid on Leicester.
Yeah, yeah.
But okay. No, I don't bet. I don't condone betting. I think generally, if you want to bet, like say, for example, €50, $50, 50 reals, whatever your local currency is, for example, at the casino or whatever, if you're happy to lose that kind of money, then instead of going to the casino or putting it on any kind of bet, I'll send me an email, koponpodcast@gmail.com. I'll give you my address. You can put the money in an envelope. You can send it to me, okay? Because it's the same result. You're going to lose your money, but instead of enriching the mafia who control the betting companies, you're just enriching a podcast host.
I never ever bet normally, but this year one of my mates kind of got onto me and he says, "Will you do the Cheltenham?" And I said, "No, I'm not getting involved. I don't do that kind of thing." So I took €2 for myself and I turned it in over those 3 days into 860 quid without even realizing. Yeah, so I stuck a bet on outside chances that were like 33-1 and 70-1 in a couple of. And they came in, and then that turned into that money. So then I just said, right, here's my €2 back. The rest is profit. Let me just take 20 quid out of that and take the rest out. And then I turned the rest of it into 860 quid. And I never ever bet, and which is funny. But I might do the same for Grand National tomorrow, just for the fun of it.
That's phenomenal. I used to live with share a house with a guy who was he was, bless him, bit of an alcoholic. He had a very unusual brain, incredibly caring in many ways, and he was sort of a little bit criminally minded. I could phrase it like that. Various escapades that he got up to, in terms of, I don't know. He had dodgy friends doing some strange ways of making money. Nothing particularly immoral.
Was these two brothers and they lived in Peckham?
No, I don't. I don't know. He may well have known those. But no. One day he got a call from some friend of his who had been arrested, and they needed £10,000 to bail them out. And he decided that he would try and win the money on the horses to bail his friend out in one day. And I was there, and I was watching him, and he did it.
Wow.
He actually did it.
What?
I could write a book about this guy. He's a dear friend, really. He's a very unusual
But 10,000 to get out of jail. Did this person commit murder? Like that is crazy.
It's a lot of money. I think murder's a bit higher than 10,000, but I didn't ask too many questions. But can you imagine? So he did it, and I could sort of see his, like, in a sense, like what was going on in his mind when he actually sent the money. Because what a sweetheart! Like,
wow.
he sent the money to bail his friend out, even though he didn't have to. It's just his friend was in trouble, and yeah. Anyway, I digress. Football.
What a fairy tale.
It's anyway, Fulham. Yes. Have you watched any Fulham, Shane, this season? I know you don't tend to watch too much of the other teams, but I mean,
I like watching Fulham a little bit. I like Harry Wilson, obviously, and it's been interesting watching the connection to Anthony Robinson. Though I have heard that people think he's a little bit too old to step in for us for a left back. But yeah, Fulham are interesting. And then I always watch any teams going up against our rivals and all that. So Fulham, I don't hate Fulham. I think Fulham are a respectable squad.
They've got depth, surprising depth. As we mentioned in the last episode of Kop On, Anthony Robinson is only 27, so he's got 3-4 years left at a very high level. 10 assists in the Premier League this season, extremely respectable. But Fulham are on a particular run where they beat Wolverhampton Wanderers 2-1 away on the 25th of February, and since then they drew with Man United and beat them, indeed, on penalties in the FA Cup. Then they lost the next match away to Brighton 2-1. Then they beat Spurs at home 2-0. Then they lost to Crystal Palace in the next round of the FA Cup 3-0. A a result that raised my eyebrows, but I couldn't be bothered to look at the highlights, so I don't know what happened in that match. And then they lost the last match, Arsenal 2, Fulham 1. And I thought, I watched that because you were talking about watching Fulham against the rivals, Shane. I watched that match and I thought that Arsenal were very poor and Fulham could have had a lot more. And I wonder if that's the kind of thing that you've seen from them, Kev, this season, where in the transition they should make more of their opportunities, or,
Yeah.
you know, a little bit of underachievement, even though they're doing really, really well.
Yeah, well, they did their job well first half of the season. You know, that's when they were at their peak, and it's like Fulham. Sometimes there was one time actually under Roy Hodgson where they got to Europe because they kept it going throughout the whole season. But in recent seasons, since Fulham have come up, when they do get into a comfortable position, when they do know they're not going to go down, or there's not really a chance at Europe, they kind of put the tools down. Or whatever, but they're thereabouts for like Conference League spots and stuff. They're still involved there, and they've been a good side. They've Iwobi's done well from this season. Harry Wilson's come in with some important goals late, even though he doesn't start the game too much. The game's too much. They've got a handy few players that are in there, and the managers, he's done well with them as well. In fairness, since he stayed with Everton and whatnot, he's been good. But I think they've been kind of overshadowed really by the improvement of Nottingham Forest and the likes of these teams. That Fulham will probably get more plaudits this season if it wasn't for the likes of Forest stepping up as well as they have been, Bournemouth stepping up as well as they have been. We could be sitting here talking about how well Fulham have really, really done this season. But I give them all the plaudits. I just think that against the top sides, they're lacking a bit now, and but they can possibly beat anybody else that's around them from the top sides downwards. So we have to be very assured of ourselves in Fulham. It's a tight pitch as well, so I'm hoping that we get our passing game going. I'm hoping that we do relinquish a little bit of possession so that we can use that slot mindset, pull them out of their low block, and if we do that, it's the perfect side to kind of do it against. So hopefully we'll see.
Excellent stuff. Shane, I don't know if you remember, I don't really remember, on the 14th of December, my memory's so horrible, 14th of December, we played Fulham at Anfield. It was 2-2. Andrew Robertson got sent off in the 17th minute. Cody Gakpo scored and Diogo Jota scored in the second half. And we were twice a goal behind, and we fought back. I just blanked that entire game out of my memory for some reason. Do you remember it, Shane? Do you remember this 2-2 at Anfield?
Was one of their goals a penalty?
It doesn't say here. Andres Pereira and Rodrigo Muniz. So no,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I must have been abducted by aliens or something, because I have no memory of that whatsoever. I keep seeing Curtis Jones's red card in my mind, I guess, against Tottenham with the foots on the ball. That's what I keep thinking of. But I mean, Robertson, I remember him giving away 2 penalties like back to back at one point in the season, and everyone was saying, oh, blah, blah, blah. But I don't remember him getting sent off.
Well, apparently in this match Fulham should have also had a man sent off, but they gave one of them. They didn't get the other one, and then apparently there was hang on, did Andy Robertson deny a goal scoring opportunity? Oh yes,
Pulled him down. Yeah, that was the goal.
Yeah, so Andy Robertson, he fouled the player and he got sent off for denying a goal scoring opportunity, but the ball really in reality had gone miles away. I do remember that. So yes,
it was a tough period as well, though, and at that stage, because I mean we had just beaten Real Madrid and Man City in a row, and then we drew with Newcastle with that mistake by Queevy and Keller, with the 3-3 the game before that, and then the Fulham game came up. So it was probably our dip for the first half of the season, is what I would call it. Nobody's seen the Nottingham Forest result happening because nobody realised how good Forest had actually become earlier. So we didn't give them that was after an international window. We didn't give them enough respect, and they taught us a lesson with their wing backs in that game. But that Fulham game was just kind of a surprise. But we were the better side, and we should have done more with it. It was just kind of individual errors and mistakes that kind of cost us at that period. And then, maybe a month later or so with the United game, and that it was the next time we had a bit of a dip up until, recently with the PSG and the Newcastle game. So if we're allowed kind of like a 2-game dip with a, when you look at Arsenal, you're kind of saying what's going to happen for the rest of the season. But Arsenal haven't won 3 games in a row all season. They haven't been able to put the string of games together. They've been poor in that way. So you're kind of saying what's going to happen here. I've said it since the end of October, start of November. I said I really feel comfortable, especially with the drop off of City. I said Arsenal will drop off, and if they do, I had to look at the fixtures, and I said possibly we could win the league as early as Spurs in the season, and I've been saying that since the beginning. Yeah, so hopefully, we'll see.
Great. I was just trying to, as you were speaking, I was just trying to remind myself of what happened in this game, and yes, this was the game where Issa Diop made a challenge where he went right over the ball, and with force and with height, he made contact with the side of Andy Robertson's knee very early in that game, in the first few minutes, and he escaped a red card. And it was one of those ones where he just absolutely crunched him, could have broken his leg, and it was definitely a red card. Then Robertson got sent off. So yes, it was another one of those matches, but we obviously dug in and rescued a point, and that's that's a brilliant result when you're playing against 11. So there you go. So we should have too much for them. I'm a little bit worried about them, because I do think Muniz is a good player, and they've got good players, as we mentioned. They've got good squad depth. But who are we playing at right back? We can't continue with Curtis, can we? I mean, if for example Adama Traore is running at Curtis, it's not like Everton where Curtis wouldn't have anyone to mark. I don't know. Are you sticking with Curtis, Shane? At right back?
Yes, I think for the time being, I mean, while he's out, I mean, if this is going to be the future, why not just start working him and Connor Bradley into the rotation, and let Trent put in Trent elsewhere at other points. I mean, at this point, I'm very emotional as a Liverpool supporter, so my feelings are hurt by Trent. And so with that, I'm like, we'll sit him on the bench. But I know his talent, he deserves to play and all of that. And so, but Curtis right now at right back, I mean, do you see a better option at this point in time?
Well, I'm just thinking about, defensively, I think Fulham will offer more of a threat than Everton, especially because they're playing at home. And so I would play perhaps Kwanzaa at right back, assuming that Bradley is still injured, because he might be back, but he's probably still not ready to play. And of course, Trent is injured as well. But I don't know. What do you think, Kev?
I don't know. It depends on what Anthony Robinson turns up, because he was very good against us in December.
Of course, yeah. You've forgotten. Yeah, he's the main threat down the left. I knew that was something I was forgetting. Yeah, of course.
If Andy Robinson's there and Kwanzaa is in position to, like, if he takes him on, you got to hope that Kwanzaa's stride is there. If you want really high interception and to kind of stop Anthony Robinson at his game, you'd probably look at maybe even Curtis again, because I've been able to intercept a lot better than Kwanzaa, quicker to the ball. But it all depends. Look, it all comes out to slot. If he believes that Fulham are going to be a threat on the attack, which I think he will, because we're away from home and they'll attack more, then he might go with Kwanzaa to sit back a bit. But if he thinks that we're going to be in control the majority of the game, especially second half, you might see a bit more from Jones, where even if he starts the game or he doesn't start the game, you might see him coming on later for Kwanzaa, so that even if we do take over the game, we can leave Robertson and, well, actually recently we've been risking just leaving Ibu and Verge back there and just letting Robertson be the tuck-in inverted wing back, and then Jones will just move back up to balance up the midfield and give Szoboszlai a bit more room. So we'll see. Look, there's a lot of options. It all depends on what way Liverpool want to play. I think it should be down to how we dictate the game, and not what way them being at home should. I think we should just go at them this time and kind of pin them back in their own half and hope for the best. But you kind of get caught in long balls over the top if we're going to keep two defenders back an awful lot. yeah, they had one little capitulation in one movement against Everton, but outside of that, they were very comfortable, with the long balls being played up over the top and clearing it and dropping it. So I don't know. It's going to come down to the manager. I can't really pick and choose. Kwanzaa would be the obvious choice, just if we're on a more defensive outfit. But if we're looking to intercept and start counter-attacking straight away with pressure on and pinning them in, you could go with Curtis Jones, because he seems to be able to play that role pretty well.
I like it. Let them worry about us. Yeah, I mean, but it feels, Shane, like a free hit. It really does. I mean, just to remind everybody, we've got Fulham, West Ham, Leicester, Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, and Crystal Palace. There's a lot of games. There is a very decent argument that after, having beaten Everton and gotten the 3 points there, we might only need 3 points from all of those fixtures to win the league. That is a realistic possibility, but maybe more realistic is that we're going to need maybe 3 wins from all of those. It feels like it's just a shot to nothing. Is that right, Shane? I mean, in that case, do we need to worry about complacency? I don't know. Do you share that sentiment? That it just feels like, yeah, we'll just go for it. We'll just try and bring our best game face and see if we can stare them down.
Yeah, I think at this point, with the Premier League being our only competition that we have games left to play in, I say that we should just try to put our best foot forward and win every single match, obviously, as the goal of any team. But yeah, I don't know if I would consider it a free hit. I'm still worried. I still think Arsenal, I think you have to assume Arsenal could win every single one of their matches. And it's mathematically not completely impossible, though unprecedented. And I don't want to be an unprecedented failure. So, yeah, I would prefer if we were to just wrap things up as soon as possible.
Yeah, but you really think Arsenal can do it? Did you see that Gabriel is out for the season?
Sure, I did see that. Yeah, because I did watch the Fulham match as well. But yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's possible. I'm a little sore after those Manchester City matches, Manchester City seasons where they pipped us by a point. But with that said, I have to unfortunately go. We're in the middle. I have to go back to work. And so I've been able to steal away. But unfortunately, I have to cut it out early.
Thank you so much. No, it's not early. You've given up a lot of your time. It's been absolutely wonderful hearing your views. Thank you so much.
Continue on, and I'll listen to the episode, and I can't wait to hear how you guys finish it up.
Well, thank you so much, Shane. Good luck. Good luck
See you
with everything. Yeah, see you soon.
Great talking with you always. Talk soon.
Take care, sir. So yeah,
my little thing to that is we're forgetting the whole factor that Arsenal have Real Madrid twice in the space of a couple of weeks.
Well, I was just going to bring that up, but just Arsenal's fixtures. They've got Everton away, then Real Madrid at home, then Brentford, then Real Madrid away, then Ipswich, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Liverpool, and Newcastle. I think it's fanciful that they, to entertain the idea that they'll win all of the Premier League matches. I don't know. Saka's back, though. It could happen.
It could, yeah, it could. But when you look at Gabriel, now Arsenal have a choice kind of going, are they going to concentrate on the league right now, or being 12 points behind, or are they going to risk everything to try and just beat Real Madrid in those 2 legs? Because for them, they can probably see a possibility of getting to a final if they beat Real Madrid. Who have they got? Maybe Aston Villa after that, and then bypassing those guys, you're talking like if it's Arsenal, Aston Villa, or whoever is going to be after that.
It would be PSG, to be fair.
Yeah, it'll be PSG, yeah. Be fair. So, but I think PSG will go on to win the whole thing. I keep forgetting about PSG. So, look, I think they'll go on to win the whole thing myself, PSG, because I just think they're good from front to back. And whereas I think Barcelona are great kind of going forward, but Benfica and other teams have showed up how poor they are defensively, and and they've had another setback where they can't register Dani Olmo now anymore, and he has to be re-registered. So now he's going to become probably a free agent to be snapped up by anybody. I would be in for him in a heartbeat, by the way. And
but that smacks of Man City to me, like these kind of, because now he's free agent, so he go to a club that can give him 400k a week, as opposed to us who will maybe be able to offer him half of that. Unfortunately, I don't see it being realistic for us. He might be part of the Chelsea sports washing, money laundering campaign, or whatever they're doing over there. But yeah, sorry, yeah, but sorry,
The fixtures for the Arsenal. So Real Madrid either side of Brentford pretty much, and after Everton next week. So I mean, Everton at Goodison, they're coming out to the last few games of the season. We're still at Goodison. You know, they're going to be fired up there because they have got a great fan base over there at that stadium. But
I'm not.
will they turn up to help us?
No, they're not.
They're never going to do it.
To do us a favour. I think
they have an opportunity to overtake Manchester United. So
yeah,
that's another thing there for them. So you know, to climb and kind of get out of that bottom half is probably Everton's goal for the rest of the season, just to save face. Because you want to be going into the new season, you know, saying that you kind of got maybe a top half finish. But in saying that, yeah, I don't know. But look, I just think Arsenal will capitulate by the time it comes to Crystal Palace. And I think once we're 15 points clear, 14, 15 points clear, by the time we beat Spurs, we win the league after beating Spurs at Anfield. And then it's Guard of Honor time.
So then, then it would be 20 titles in the bag, 21 the aim. Looking around the grounds then, just finally, how sort of worried are you? Are you worried about anyone? I was thinking about Chelsea of all teams. I was thinking about Chelsea, thinking, well, because their problems are so bleedingly obvious from this point, and because money for some reason doesn't affect them in terms of PSR or whatever, they obviously need a goalkeeper. They obviously need some defenders, maybe 2 defenders and a number 9.
Oh yeah.
That's 4 recruits to bring in, and with their spending power, if they nail all of those 4, they could be a hell of a force, you know. Caicedo's getting better and better. Fernandez is really good, and they've got some really brilliant players. Of course they have, but they need that striker. Sorry,
Cole Palmer. You know, he's been a bit of a miss for him, but yeah, Chelsea can get. You know, they're just teetering on the edge recently in the last couple of seasons. You know, you look back to December at that time when we were drawing those 2 games and they had an opportunity. We could have gone 10 clear or something, and then, you know, if they'd have done something right, then they could have been within 2 points of us. But then it just completely, you know, backtailed for them, and we just kind of took off. But I'm not too worried about Chelsea for this part of the season, because I'm in my mindset, I think we'll have a 1 in the game before, which is Spurs. I know when I look at it, like every single game for the rest of the season for us is on a Sunday.
No, but I'm talking for next year. I'm talking for next year.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my question, I suppose, is when you look around the grounds, which team do you think can strengthen the most and close the gap on us?
Chelsea would be the obvious one there. I can't see United doing
City.
Arsenal, I think they're going to be in a transition soon. I think Arsenal are at a point where they're starting to get tired of Arteta's type of football, and he might be on the chopping block if he doesn't win anything soon, even as early as the next Carabao Cup final. You know, if he doesn't get them to like a Champions League final, or, you know, put on a face for the rest of the season for Arsenal, he's on the chopping block. So that's the only reason that I think Arsenal are going to try and play, but they can't, because they don't have a Gabriel, they don't have a number 9, they haven't had it all season, and they haven't won 3 games in a row all season. Newcastle have the potential to start really pushing on from here. You would have thought Aston Villa recently, but I think Aston Villa are about to, as they say, be fleeced. And so I think some of their best talent, Ollie Watkins nearly left for Arsenal in January, and I think they're just on the edge of just kind of getting some of their best talent pulled away from them. And I think Newcastle will take over the mantle that probably Aston Villa have had for the last couple of seasons, getting in there to the Champions League and whatnot. If I'm looking around, Spurs have always had the potential, but Spurs are Spurs. No matter how much once Daniel Levy is in there, it's all about the Daniel Levy show and just maintaining. There's no ambition there. Their fans don't have much ambition. They never really get angry at anything, so they don't push them on enough. Arsenal fans are always angry whether they're doing well or not, and it's a weird egotistical expectancy from their lot, and I never understand it. I can't see anybody. Brighton have always had the potential. Brighton will always maintain. Brighton are just remind me of Southampton a few seasons back when Pochettino was in charge, where they could just, play some wonderful football at times and grow from there. I can't really see anybody else kind of stepping up to the mantle really outside of maybe Newcastle. If Aston Villa maintain and hold and add some more talent, maybe they can start challenging.
Really challenging for the league?
No, not challenging for the league, but top 4 places. If I'm thinking of challenging for the league, maybe Chelsea and Newcastle.
Just Chelsea and Newcastle. You don't think City will rebuild?
City will always be there, but that all depends on what's going to happen with the 115 and whatever happens there, they can be relegated. The championship not even wanting.
Let's assume that money will talk and they will buy everybody.
Well, then they'll be there every season.
So next season, because what
they've got Marmoush.
Marmoush is great, but they need to replace Foden, don't they? He's been rubbish this season, and De Bruyne's leaving. Rodri may not be the same player when he comes back after the ACL.
He depends highly on a midfield enforcer. Does Pep? When he doesn't have a midfield enforcer, they struggle big time. Big time.
But maybe they can get one. I don't know. That's the thing. I'm just trying to. I don't know. I'm just wondering who's going to put up a fight, because this season it's been not easy. We've had to scrap for a lot of the points, and I refute anyone who talks about how, for example, how brilliantly we've been playing all season.
Yeah.
No, we've been excellent in terms of fight and in terms of doing just enough in games.
Yeah.
We've been brilliant at that, but we haven't been. It hasn't been scintillating football all season. In certain moments, yes, but only in certain moments. The majority has just been scrapping our way to this position. But I just wonder if I think we're going to strengthen in the summer. Yeah. I just wonder if the other teams are going to close the gap, because at the moment they are miles behind. Let's remind ourselves: Liverpool on 73 points, Arsenal 61, Nottingham Forest 57 points. They're third in the league and they're 16 points behind us. And then it gets into 20s, we're 21 points ahead of fourth place Chelsea, and we're 22 points ahead of fifth place Man City. That's mental. That's a massive gap to bridge.
Yeah, it was pretty. In the last season when we won the league, it was 25 points. I remember that when we were ahead of City in 2020. Before, we kind of actually walked the league, and then we kind of, we were on the beach and it came back to 18 points or something. But even at that, look, when you were talking about earlier, I always had a given. If Manchester City are involved or Arsenal involved, they're probably going to be thereabouts from going by recent seasons. But if we're talking about like new talent coming into the fray, I wouldn't put past Nottingham Forest getting involved next season for a period of the league if they improve in the right places and if they don't lose a lot of their talent, because I think a lot of teams are going to come in for some of Nottingham Forest's talent, and that's what's going to kind of screw them over a bit. But going by, pulling power now and by money ability at the moment, you can't put it past Chelsea and Newcastle at the moment from sneaking into that kind of top 6 bat. I don't even think there's a top 6 anymore. You talk about top 6 teams. Manchester United aren't involved in that anymore. Spurs aren't involved in that anymore. Everton certainly aren't involved in that. You're talking about Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City, Chelsea. And now you have to start talking about Newcastle and Spurs. Spurs aren't really in there anymore.
No, right.
Yeah, no, but I think there's maybe if you want to include Villa in that, they'd probably be the 6th team that's involved in that top 6 kind of side for the last few seasons if you're going on the merit of that. But United haven't been involved in it properly for a few seasons now. And even in the seasons where they did come second, it's mainly due to the fact that everybody else was poor and they just maintained the same kind of point system again and again. And even in the season they came second to City that time a few seasons back, they still ended up 18 points behind City, which is nuts to think, that anybody was getting anywhere near close. And in our worst season, which was the season after we won the league, we ended up coming back to within 3 or 4 points of them, even though we were way down, about 16 points behind them after losing 6 games in a row at home around January and December, and we pulled it all the ways back. So we could have caught them if we'd have just gone into form a little bit earlier. So they've only ever maintained the same since maybe Jose Mourinho was there when he beat like a 12-year-old Ajax side in that Europa League final that time. And I can't see them getting involved anytime soon. Not over the next couple of seasons again. I did a post funny enough, one in 2013. I put it on Facebook. I still have it there to this day. And I typed out everything that was going to happen to Manchester United over the next 10 to 15 years.
Oh, I'd like to read that.
Yeah, I'll have to find it, but I will give it to you. But it pretty much almost exactly happened to what happened, because I just said Fergie is so integral to them. And I said the stadium is pushing on, even though they have added that corner. The stadium is pushing on. They're going to see worries. I said the internal stuff that's going on at Manchester United at that time was all about power and looking well and doing that. And there's too much influence from outside with ex-players and stuff that are going to get involved. And if Fergie turns into one of those, I said they're going to be in trouble. There was a lot of stuff that I said, but I said, look, I can't see Manchester United win the league until the mid-2020s or so. And now we're in 2025 and they still haven't won it. And I said that back in 2012, 2013. I have to find that post. But
with 36 points ahead of them.
Yeah.
But they are on the up. I think that's clear with Amorim. Unfortunately, it was such a joy. The old days of Ten Hag and the early days of Amorim to tune in to pretty much every game, because every game they'd be god awful, and it doesn't matter who they were playing. They had a very good chance of losing. They've lost 13 matches this season, but they are improving, unfortunately, and I think that will continue, because it's hard to beat three at the back. It's hard to beat any team that plays three at the back generally. And yeah, but I mean, I hope their problems continue, and there's lots of reason to think they will. But here we are again. It's getting late here in France.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to leave it there, Kev. But thank you so much for sharing.
No problem.
Your views. It's been absolutely marvelous. And once again, please do tell our listeners where we can find you online.
Yeah, well, you'll find me doing a watch along for the game on Sunday. You'll find me on YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and X or Twitter or whatever it's called now. And you'll find me on Twitch. If you just search, it depends on your platform. If you search Irish Spider Guy, you'll find me on YouTube and Twitch. If you search Spider LFC, you'll find me on TikTok and Twitter and all these other places, and Facebook. Oh, yeah.
Excellent stuff. So do tune in, check out Kev's channels, everybody, all the dear, sweet, adored listeners. The Kop On Ears, as you said last time, it's very, very good name. Thank you, Kev. So yeah, have a marvelous rest of the evening, and we'll look forward to Sunday. Liverpool are, as I said before, it feels like Mario, where we just need to jump and see if we can get 2,000 points at the top of the flag, or just 200 points at the bottom of the flag. But whatever happens, we're going home with the flag, which is the trophy. You'll never walk alone. Thank you so much for listening.